If you've ever been so relentlessly picked apart, so deliberately undermined that every single opportunity you ever dreamed of seemed to just vanish, how far would you truly go to reclaim what was stolen? How much of yourself would you invest, not in anger, but in the slow, meticulous pursuit of balance? I've kept my mouth shut, swallowed my pride, and nurtured a secret for 15 long years. But tonight, that silence is over. Tonight, I'm talking because my wait is finally, gloriously over. I was just 12, barely old enough to understand the weight of his words, when Chase Willard leaned over my desk. His smile was a casual, predatory thing, and his whispered promise sent a chill down my spine. "I'll make sure you end up a nobody, Parker." For a long time, I believed him. It took me 15 years, a lifetime of quiet calculation to prove him wrong, and the satisfying twist? I used his own signature move, his own brand of insidious sabotage to do it. 7th grade. Man, what a time. Small town, one middle school, and a social hierarchy as rigid as any ancient empire. I was the quiet kid, the one who lived for the smell of model rocket fuel and the thrill of launch day. Chase, on the other hand, was the kid who built his reputation by systematically tearing everyone else's apart, and mine was his favorite target. It started subtly. First week, he accidentally tripped me in the cafeteria, sending my carefully balanced tray of mystery meat and mashed potatoes splattering across the new girl I'd been hoping to impress. The humiliation burned hotter than any rocket exhaust. Second week, rumors started swirling that I cheated on every single test. Teachers, bless their hearts, suddenly watched me like a hawk, their eyes following every pencil stroke, and my grades, predictably, started to suffer under the pressure. Third week, he escalated. He somehow convinced the only guidance counselor we had, a sweet but easily flustered woman, that my weird obsession with fire, my model rockets, mind you, made me a potential safety threat. Just like that, the one advanced science elective I needed for the magnet high school, the one class that felt like mine, was suddenly full. My world started to unravel. Friends, once a steady presence, evaporated overnight, leaving me feeling like an outcast. My grades dipped further, my parents, already stressed, fought more often, and my confidence, once soaring like my rockets, shrank to the pathetic size of the balsa wood fins I could no longer afford. Every day was a fresh assault, a new way to feel small and insignificant. I remember one particularly brutal afternoon, sitting alone at my desk, the sting of injustice a raw wound. Chase, with a casual flick of his wrist, poured an entire carton of chocolate milk into my carefully organized project box, ruining weeks of work. That was the moment. Not a flash of anger, but a cold, clear focus settled deep within me. I swore I'd pay him back. Not tomorrow, not next week, when it would be a childish squabble. No, I'd wait. I'd wait until it actually hurt, until the stakes were so high that the fall would truly be catastrophic. Fast forward to senior year, and Chase's petty bullying had hardened into a deeply ingrained habit, a core part of his character. We both applied to the same state college, both vying for a highly competitive engineering scholarship. For him, it was a feather in his cap. For me, it was everything. My family didn't have tuition money. Simple as that. This scholarship was my golden ticket, my only path forward. Interview day arrived, a blur of nervous energy and rehearsed answers. As I walked into the bustling auditorium, my heart caught in my throat. There, lying tragically in a nearby trash can, was my application portfolio. Pages torn, coffee-soaked, utterly ruined. I didn't need to ask who had done it. He was leaning against the wall, a faint, sickening smirk playing on his lips, watching me. I can still hear the exact sentence he drawled, his voice laced with mock pity, as I fished my wrinkled design sketches from the sticky coffee-scented can. Face it, Parker, you'll never make it without a handout. He expected tears, maybe a scene, but something shifted inside me. I didn't cry. The capacity for that kind of emotional reaction had simply evaporated. Instead, a cold, clear focus descended. Staring at those ruined papers, I felt every last molecule of give a damn for his opinion, for his approval, for him, just vanish. That was the precise moment I stopped reacting to Chase and started planning. While he was busy collecting acceptance letters and basking in the glow of his supposed superiority, I was quietly, meticulously collecting data. Data on him, on leverage, on the intricate, often unfair way life actually works when your daddy's money can't buy you out of a trap you never even see coming. The college years were a grind, a testament to sheer willpower. While Chase was probably living it up in some fraternity house, I was working night shifts at a plastics plant, the smell of molten polymer clinging to my clothes. I earned a 2-year degree, then transferred, scraping through mechanical engineering courses, one dog-eared rented textbook at a time. Every semester, tucked away in a hidden folder on my hard drive, I kept a file labeled CW. Inside, a growing digital archive, screenshots of Chase's party photos, whispers of cheating rumors, reports of Greek life probations, even a grainy video I'd stumbled upon of him keying a professor's car after receiving a B-. Did I post any of it? No. Did I leak it? Never. I just organized, dated, and waited. After graduation, the corporate world beckoned. Chase, predictably, landed a plush gig at a flashy defense contractor, all thanks to his uncle running the Midwest division. Me? I got hired at a tiny R&D firm that, in a twist of fate I couldn't have scripted better, built components for, you guessed it, the very same parent company. I kept my head down, absorbed every technical spec, learned the systems inside and out, and earned 2 promotions the old-fashioned way. I quietly became the go-to engineer, the one person who could read a 200-page test standard without their eyes glazing over. Meanwhile, Chase continued his effortless ascent up the corporate ladder, navigating it with the same smooth talk, borrowed work, and zero long-term memory he'd used in middle school hallways. The higher he rose, the more rope he inadvertently gave me. My coworkers, observing my almost superhuman patience with complex problems, joked that I had patience of carbon fiber. I'd laugh along, but inside, I wasn't just solving engineering puzzles. I was counting months, then years. 1, 2, 5, 10, 12, and then finally 15. The clock kept ticking, and so did my resolve. Year 15. The air at the company was buzzing with anticipation. A flagship product launch was on the horizon, a revolutionary lightweight drone frame that needed to pass a brutal, unforgiving FAA certification process. Big bonuses were dangled, media buzz was practically guaranteed, and stock options were on the table. Every manager wanted credit for this one. Chase, now a program director, a title he'd acquired more through networking than merit, assigned himself as the certification lead. The irony wasn't lost on me. He hadn't cracked a spec book since college. The actual legwork, the painstaking, mind-numbing detail work landed squarely on my desk, exactly as I had hoped. I became the ghostwriter, the invisible hand behind every compliance report that would eventually bear his name. You can't forge honesty into a document, no, but you can certainly bury landmines in the footnotes, can't you? references to obsolete standards, thermal test data that subtly contradicted each other, revision numbers that didn't quite line up with the submission timeline. It was a masterpiece of controlled chaos. I worked triple overtime, fueled by a decade and a half of simmering purpose to make sure every single discrepancy looked like a rushed clerical error, an oversight, anything but deliberate sabotage. When the final monstrous 600-page technical file was shipped off for review, Chase's signature, a flourish of perfect blue ink, sprawled across the approval page. And in that moment, I finally exhaled, truly exhaled, for the first time in 15 years. 8 weeks later, the FAA auditors arrived. The atmosphere in the office was thick with nervous energy, but I felt a quiet, almost serene calm. I presented my module, answered their pointed questions with practiced ease, then, with a polite nod, excused myself. The real grilling, I knew, was just beginning. And just as I had rehearsed in my mind countless times, they zeroed in on the anomalies, the tiny, strategically placed inconsistencies. Within days, the certification process froze solid. Company shares dipped, and headlines, sharp and accusatory, fluttered across every trade journal. The company faced a brutal choice: admit systemic failure, a PR nightmare, or pin it squarely on a single reckless manager. HR, as expected, launched an internal review. That's when I uploaded the folder labeled CW. All 15 years of meticulously collected evidence onto the investigation portal. Not a leak to a disgruntled journalist, not an anonymous tip whispered in a dark corner. This was a professional submission, timed to corroborate the undeniable paper trail already sitting on the auditors' desks. The axe swung fast, and it swung hard. A termination letter, revoked stock options, and an industry-wide blackball. I didn't have to stand over his desk grinning like some cartoon villain, no. The corporate security team escorted him out, his face pale and drawn, while the entire office watched in stunned silence. There was no chocolate milk throwing, no hallway taunts. Just a grown man carrying a single banker's box filled with the remnants of his career, walking past the conference room where I sat, quietly, fixing a jammed projector. Our eyes met for one fleeting second, long enough for him to know. Long enough for him to recognize the kid whose future he once tried so carelessly to delete. You'd think the victory lap, the moment of ultimate triumph, would feel sweeter, more explosive. But mostly, I felt the sudden, profound absence of a crushing weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. I slept 14 glorious hours that weekend, a deep, dreamless sleep, then woke up and made coffee, without tasting the bitter tang of adrenaline in it for the first time since middle school. It was liberation. The drone project, after a necessary reboot under stricter oversight, moved forward. I accepted a senior engineer role, leading compliance for the redesign, a position I'd earned, not schemed for. Chase, according to a quick, almost impersonal LinkedIn search, moved 3 states away. He now sells automotive warranties over the phone, no security clearance, no fanfare, no uncle in upper management to smooth his path. People often say revenge corrodes the soul, that it turns you into the very thing you despise. Maybe, but so does swallowing injustice every single day, letting it fester and grow until you forget what pride, what self-respect even tastes like. I didn't lash out in a moment of anger, fueled by fleeting emotion. I waited. I waited until the law, the undeniable data, and his own arrogant choices aligned perfectly. If that's corrosion, well, it feels a whole lot like polish to me. It feels like cleansing. If you've ever carried a story like mine, a burden of injustice or a simmering desire for true accountability, weigh in below.
Was 15 years of patience worth it? Or should I have just let karma handle things on its own timeline? Drop your thoughts. Hit subscribe if you want more real-life stories that don't end where the school bell rings. And please share this with someone who needs a reminder that some clocks run slow, but they never, ever stop. Justice, in its own time, will find its way. Chase told me I'd never make it. He was so sure. Tonight, I'm a certified project lead with a clean conscience, a quiet office, and a future I built brick by painful brick. He's fielding complaints about extended warranty calls, a shadow of the person he thought he was. I waited 15 years, yes, but the truth is, I didn't spend that time obsessing over him. I spent it becoming someone the 12-year-old me, the humiliated, hopeful kid, could finally trust. And that, more than any termination letter or corporate downfall, is the real last laugh. It's the sound of me, finally, living.